Hey guys, this is Bruce, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about some blockchain stuff. I've been obsessed with this technology for quite some time, and now I have the opportunity to actually talk about it in relation to my favorite thing, which is cybersecurity. But first, I want to tell you guys about some tips. I want to give you guys some tips on what to do with your resume if you happen to be trying to get into this career field, or you are in this field and you're trying to level up and you're messing around with your resume. I got a few tips. So I'm taking this from a review I did of one of my viewers' resumes, and this is just a screenshot. There's no names or anything on here. But so let me just kind of start with this first line here. They talked about their job as a system administrator, right? And they talked about role progression. They went from a application analyst, senior application analyst, to a application coordinator manager. And only thing I would maybe suggest here is maybe put one of these roles up here in system administrator. But that's neither here nor there, especially if they're trying to get a cybersecurity job. And what I did was I take people's resume and I cater it to a cybersecurity role. So let me show you this first one. This next line here, the second line here. It says, mentored and led a team of 5 analysts who were responsible for supporting vendor software tools. And so only thing I changed, all the things that I changed here are in green or are highlighted. And what I added here was 5 application analysts. I'm assuming he meant application analyst. If they meant cybersecurity analyst, you would just, all I'm doing is putting something more specific here, so it's more specific, better keywords is what you want to go for. Okay, so then he goes on to say application analysts who were responsible for support of vendor software tools. So right here is an opportunity to expand on which software tools, because the tools are important. Like, you want to add tools in there. Like, if you say worked on Microsoft operating systems, it's better to say worked on Windows OS 10, worked on Windows 2010, worked on Windows 7, worked on Windows 2008, worked on Windows 2016, whatever it is, right? You want to be specific, because those tools, each one of them are keywords. And when people are looking for you, they're looking for that specific, that tool, whatever it is. You be surprised how many people will hire you just based off of a tool that you've used before that you know how to use. All right, moving on to the next line here. This next line says investigated cybersecurity incidents. Okay, this one's solid right here. Reported findings and performed risk remediation. And then I just added as a part of organization's incident response process. And the reason why I put this here is because that incident response is a keyword. Incident handling is another keyword. Incident handler is a keyword. Those are all things that employers of cybersecurity professionals are looking for. So you want to put that in there as much as possible. And then let me see another good one here. Analyzed application server and desktop logs for unexpected malicious events. So the only thing I added here is I added a little comment stating that if he used a tool here, then he should add those tools. Like if this is a SIEM, like maybe he used ArcSight, or maybe he used, I don't know, some other popular SIEM, Alien Vault, or I don't know, what's another one? A SIEM, you would want to put the name of the SIEM that you use here. Whatever you use to analyze those logs, put that in there, because that is definitely a keyword. Let me see what else do we have here. Here's another good one. Okay, so he says, served on the Department of Change Advisory Board, and I just put CAB in there because that may be a keyword. And then for impact, he said served on the department's Change Advisory Board for IT system changes, And then for impact to put participating in the process of 5 million configuration management. Obviously, I'm being facetious there. However many change advisory boards he was a part of, maybe it was like 300. Configuration, you want to put the number because that indicates the impact that you had on the organization, right? So that's the importance of putting the number there, is saying, hey, I did a lot. Here's how many I did, and it had an impact on this. You want to put what you did and the impact. Anyway, the impact is participated in 5,000 configuration management tickets to maintain the enterprise security posture. All right, and then here's this is the last one I'll read here. Let me see. They said performed code analysis for potential vulnerability, application maintenance, and adding new logic. Okay, so for this one, I know that this one is hot. This is really, really hot in cybersecurity. Anybody who is reviewing code for security, this is if you have this skill, then I'm telling you, this is really something that people are looking for all over this field. So I did a little bit of research, and one of the keywords was it's called secure app developer, right? So performed secure app dev code analysis for, and you'd want to put the tool there because I know that they have some tools that they use. Sometimes they'll run the source code through this tool, and it'll tell you where there's some potential logic bombs or potential issues in the actual source code that was written. And if you have those skills, you definitely want to put that specific tool. Put tools. The moral of the story is, when you're doing your resume, put the tools that you use, put the applications that you use, name the actual security tools that you use, name the actual operating systems, all of that, put it in there, because those are all keywords. And that is it for this one. Now I want to get into the meat of this. And I'm not going to bore you guys with this one. This one is something I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time. This is about blockchain and how it improves information security, or cybersecurity, or security in general, however you want to put it, right? But how does blockchain improve cybersecurity? Now, first of all, when a lot of people think of blockchain, they think of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the killer app of the blockchain. Or they think of NFTs, which everybody are talking about right now. Everybody's talking about NFT this, NFT that, or Ethereum, because the price of Ethereum has gone way up, or Cardano, or whatever, right? So I'm not talking about necessarily the price of ADA or the price of name your favorite coin or token. I'm talking about actual use cases, other use cases other than store of value or assets. There's many different use cases of blockchain, going from taxation to energy to railways to, right now, IBM is using it, supply chain usages, enterprise, healthcare, insurance. There's so many different use cases for blockchain technology, not just money, not just assets, not just technical analysis of the tokens and stuff going up and down. And these will become much clearer as I go through this, because I want to demonstrate to you guys, show you guys where security, and I'm so surprised more people don't talk, more IT guys don't talk about this, about how powerful blockchain is, especially in the world of security. There's so many security applications of blockchain technology, and I'm just surprised nobody talks about it. And what I'm going to do is to show you how it's effective. Is I want to show you how it differs between the differences between server, client versus blockchain, and then it'll make more sense. All right, so just from a high level, you'll see differences such as clear text by design. The servant-client model is what we use right now. Whenever you use your email, you are accessing a server through your client, which is your browser. If you are watching Netflix, you are accessing Netflix's server. Basically, all the stuff that we do on a regular basis is the client-server model. Even using the back end as a cloud is still client-server model. All right, I'm talking about client-server, what we all use right now, compared to blockchain. And one of the major issues with server-client model is that it's clear text by design, whereas blockchain is not. It's encrypted by design. Another issue that you have is privacy came years after client model, years after. I mean, this is just now. It's kind of a recent add-on to client-server model, whereas blockchain uses it on a regular basis. Then there's fault tolerance. If the system goes down, what are you going to do if the server back end goes down, and server client model goes down all the time, and they have to do all of these extra steps to get fault tolerance and disaster recovery and all this stuff. But in blockchain, fault tolerance, you can't even have a blockchain technology without fault tolerance built in already. And then finally, I'm going to talk to you about how server client model, because it's by default has so many issues, security issues in it, how you need so much more security compliance and regulations on it. Whereas blockchain technology, I would argue, would require less. It's going to be easier to actually go through the security compliance. All right, let's start from the top here. Let's start off with clear text. So clear text, if you've been in this field for some time, you'll notice that if you're doing an assessment or whatever, if I'm doing a scan, what I notice is that a lot of the easy low-hanging fruit that I look for is legacy ports, protocols, and services. Things like port 21 or port 69, which is Telnet. The reason why is because by default, by design, when they were made in 1960s, FTP was clear text with no authentication, and so is Telnet, right? And then unless you actually implement some extra steps in there, it is going to remain clear text. So there's extra things you have to do to, and so let me explain clear. So clear text just means you hit send, and your message goes over the network, and anybody who's on the network can see it. Like with the correct tools, they'll be able to see exactly what you typed in and who it came from and who it's going to. That's what I mean by clear text. So the types of attacks that someone would be able to do is man-in-the-middle spoofing or sniffing the network to actually see those clear text messages. By design, SMTP, when it was originally made, SMTP, by the way, is mail. That's just mail, like sending actual email, was unauthenticated and unencrypted ASCII. So that's how, I mean, right now, like there's all different levels and layers that protect your email when it's going from point A to point B. You've got all kinds of encryption and digital signatures and all kinds of extra layers on top of it. But when it first came out, it wasn't like that. So by design, initially, the server client model has a bunch of clear text in there, and you got to do all these extra steps to actually manage the security on it. So now blockchain, compare that to blockchain. Once you understand, and I'm just going to explain very quickly how it works, and you'll understand why by design all messages have to be encrypted. Let me explain why. I'm going to keep this pretty high level, and somebody put this together, this little diagram, this little infograph here, and I thought it was really, really good. And this is, for the sake of this explanation, we're talking about Bitcoin. But this can be just remember, it doesn't have to be sending Bitcoin. It could be sending any message. So step one is Alice wants to send a message or money to Bob, right? It could be either one, but let's say they're sending money. Alice is sending money to Bob, Bitcoin. And so when that request is made, a block goes out, and that block has to go over a whole it broadcasts over a bunch of nodes, right? This right here represents a bunch of computers that this message from Alice is going to go over. All of these nodes are going to all receive this message. So it has to be encrypted, right? Because it's going to all these different nodes. Now, what do these nodes do? These nodes, these computers, what they do is they have to validate the message. All of those computers they all get the message. It's encrypted, right? And they have to all agree on that this message is from Alice and it's going to Bob. Once all of these nodes agree, and keep in mind it's all encrypted, they validate it and send it on its way. So that's what you're seeing in this next step right here. This next step is the validation process. The network has validated the message, the transaction or the money, whatever, and send it on its way. Now this message, one of the key components of blockchain is that it's permanent. You can't change it. It's non-reputable. That means that you can't go back. You can't say that you didn't send it. Alice can't go back and say, no, I didn't. I never sent that message. There's non-repudiation, and it's very transparent because all of those messages are going to be are permanently on the record, and anybody who's on that network can see the transactions between Alice and Bob and what was sent. And that's why it's imperative, it's important that it's actually encrypted. And then once all of these steps go through, Bob receives that money or that message. It can be money or a message, and it's going to use the same process. And so that's why the data must be encrypted, unlike the server client model. And I hope that makes sense. It's a very important feature of blockchain technology is that there's no middleman. There's no middleman. The reason how that's possible is that it's encrypted and it has to go through this cloud of all of these systems, and those systems all agree and validate the message and send it on its way. So that's how it gets around that going through a third party to send in a message or send money or whatever. And so by design, it's encrypting all messages because it has to. Another huge issue that blockchain solves is privacy. Personally identifiable information is not fully protected in the client-server model. And once I explain why, it's gonna make perfect sense. It's centralized. Let's take Facebook as an example. If you're using Facebook and you upload your information on there, right? You make an account, you put your first name, your middle name, your last name, your date of birth, your phone number, your email, right? And all the other personal information on there on Facebook, right? Really, trust is the first failure. One of my mentors used to tell me trust is the first failure, and it's a very cynical thing to say, but in this case, it's absolutely true. You trust them. Are they encrypting your data, your PII, your first name, last name, middle initial, all the other information you give them? Are they encrypting this information? Well, it's their network. They can encrypt it or not encrypt it. When it's stored there, do you think that they encrypt it? It's maybe. Here's the thing, though. Now, no matter where you put it, the insiders, whether it's encrypted or not, the insiders there have access to your information. The employees there, if they have to back up a server or something, at some point, they're touching your information. It's a single point of failure from a security perspective because it's on one server. Now, it might be backed up on 3 or 4 other servers, but it's on one server. Now, let me enlighten you on that. Now, I thought this was fake when I first seen it. This little message here on the side here is from Mark Zuckerberg. Now, and this is not me trying to attack Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's a very smart dude, very talented guy. But this is what he said in 2006. He was like I said, I thought this was fake, but it's real. He said, hey, he's talking to a friend on a chat. He says, hey, if you need to know about any information on anybody on Harvard, just ask me. I've got 4,000 emails, pictures, addresses. I think SSN, I think he meant here. So he put SNS. And his friend's like, what? How do you manage that one? And Zuckerberg says, people just submit it to me. And Zuckerberg's like, I don't know why they trust me. Those dumb Fs. Right? I thought this was fake, but this came from the Business Insider, and they got it from the New Yorker. And Mark Zuckerberg actually apologized for this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you might be saying, well, Bruce, that's not true. And even if it was in 2006, right? That was when he was much younger. It's not what it used to be. It's changed. Well, let's think about what Mark Zuckerberg recently said. And this is not me attacking Mark Zuckerberg. I'm just trying to make a point here. So he says, this is more recent. He said, if people want to share more, the world will be more open and connected, a better world. This is what he believes. This is what he said. Quoting, he said, privacy must be overcome. Now, what does he mean by that? We got people through this really big hurdle of getting people to want to put their personal information out there, right? Okay. And then the last thing he says is control is the new privacy. He says what people want isn't complete privacy. They want control over who they can share it with. And you know what? Regardless of what Zuckerberg says, regardless of what you think about it, maybe you're okay with your information being on your real information being out there on Facebook, and you trust them. Thing is, we're sharing our information with banks, with the DMV, with the local state government, right? And you might be fine with that. You're sharing it with YouTube. You're sharing it with Twitter. You're sharing it with all, TikTok, all these different organizations. It's private. It's a private institution in some of the cases, right? They can do what they want with the information. You're checking the box and saying, good to go. Terms of service agreed. I'm going to keep my stuff on there. You guys do what you want to do with my information. I'm just going to keep on posting videos, right? So, just think about that. Just recently, there was a breach with T-Mobile, I believe. T-Mobile has this huge breach. And even if you're like, well, I'm not with T-Mobile. So if you've ever been with T-Mobile, more than likely your stuff has been breached. So there's a serious problem here with this server client model and privacy. It's a serious problem. Now, let me explain to you how blockchain is a little bit better, okay? So in this model here, what you're seeing is Alice. Over here, this little icon right here represents Alice. And Alice wants to make a purchase on this merchantaccount.com site, right? So rather than put her first name, her middle name, her last name, her, credit card information and where she lives, rather than doing all of that, instead, she uses her cryptocurrency wallet. And that cryptocurrency wallet, it is using a pseudonym, and the pseudonym is this. It's 1C3EB35A, and it's like this long list of numbers, right? And this right here is how she's gonna put this on there, and this pseudonym represents her to make the purchase. Now, she didn't put her first name, didn't put her last name, didn't put any of that information on merchant account A. She's just putting this code in there, pseudonym. It makes the transaction, and then she gets what she wants. And it's all tracked on the blockchain. And she did it with a pseudonym. And it's peer-to-peer, so there's no third party. So one of the other things that you have to do whenever it's centralized is you have to go, if you want to buy with PayPal, you've got to use PayPal. Your information has to be with PayPal and with the merchant. And then PayPal uses your information to go ahead, and so now your information is two different places, right? Your real name, real credit card information, all that stuff is in two different locations. And either one of those can be hacked. That's two more attack vectors for your information to get leaked or whatever. This is peer-to-peer. Like Bitcoin and blockchain allows you to go directly with the other person. And it doesn't have to be Bitcoin. It could be any one of the other blockchains. And it can be information. It doesn't even have to be money, right? The point is, blockchain allows you to go directly peer-to-peer with the other person that you're making the transaction with, rather than going through to a trusted third party. It's a trustless system because of the way that it's configured. And that the peer-to-peer factor and the pseudonym factor are two steps that allows you to better protect your PII, your personally identifiable information. And the way that it's able to do this is with public key and private key. So Alice is able to generate a public key using her private key. And so that private, now keep this in mind, this is crazy. So this private key allows you to create a public key that you can have expire after some time. Like you can literally have a system set up on the blockchain where this private key is kept with Alice, like maybe on her phone or something, right? And then she generates a public key that expires after maybe, I don't know, after a week or something. And then she can then give this information to whoever she wants it to. And she's not worried about this being leaked because it'll expire after some time. Now, you can do this same public key, private key stuff over blockchain with IDs, with wallets, with credit card numbers, with license, national numbers. Now, think of this. In the US, we have a social security number. Everybody's given this. It's a national number. When you're born, they give you this number. My kids ask me about this, and I explain to them, like, yeah, it's a number everybody has. They're like, wait, what? They're like, what if somebody steals it? I'm like, yeah, what if somebody steals it? That's a very good question, because if somebody steals it, it's a static number. Like it's a 9-digit number. If somebody steals it and they have their name and your location, they can literally set up another line of credit on and say that they're you. Identity theft, right? And it's super hard to reverse that. It's an old system. Like it was done in the 1940s or 50s or something like that. We need a change. Like this is an opportunity. This blockchain, public key, private key has been out for some time, but now you have an infrastructure that can actually implement something like this. And there's real world use cases for this. It's already being implemented. One of those examples is called Atala Prism that's on the Cardano blockchain. So Cardano has Atala Prism, and I believe they've already implemented portions of it in Republic of Georgia, Ethiopia, and possibly a couple of other countries that they're trying to set this up. And this is really brilliant. It's an app on your phone that allows you just what I was talking about. It's like a public key, private key type thing, but it allows you to have a government ID. It allows you to share your university degree. Think about how effective that is. If you've ever gone to college, you know how important this is. Whenever you have to transfer to another college, you have to go to the school and get your transcripts. You got to go to school, pay a small fee, and then they'll send your transcripts a week or something later, right? If they can find them, to the other school. And sometimes they'll only accept it if it's directly from the other school. Like they have to mail it to the other school or fax it to the other school, your transcripts. If it was on the blockchain, you could then access your own records. You have the private key. You access your own records on blockchain. And then if you're at another school, you can just send those records to them. You'll have access. You pull it down because it verifies it's you with your private key. Verifies it's you. You pull down your records. Boom. You send it to the other person. It's authenticated. It's authenticated because it's you. You got your records. Now you send it directly to the next school. They have it. and you've given them access to that, just your school records. I mean, it's brilliant. And you can do the same thing with your health care, your health insurance, your proof of employment, all that stuff. So that is the advantage of having something like blockchain over just regular old school, the server client model that we use today. Another huge advantage that blockchain has over the server client model is disaster recovery, backups, and fault tolerance. Right now, in the current server, the server client model, and you can have fault tolerance, right? I'm not sitting here saying that there's no fault tolerance, but it's not there by default. You have to either purchase it or implement it. For example, if you have a web application out there and your organization has a web application and thousands of people a day are getting on there, right? But somebody wants to spam it. So what they do is they do a distributed denial of service attack on it, where they have some kind of a virus that's attacking they're not a virus. Well, what it is like an application that's attacking, that's sending a bunch of packets to your web application from like 1,000 different servers and systems all over the world, and it bogs down your web application. So one of the things that you can do to make sure that this doesn't happen, so that you have some fault tolerance, meaning something goes wrong but you can tolerate it, right? That's what the fault tolerance means. So you can get a load balancer. And you can either purchase one and put it in front of your web application, or you can purchase the service, something like Cloudflare, or there's other ones out there that you purchase that service I think annually, and then they put it out there so that if you have this sudden increase of traffic or denial of service attack or whatever, the load balancer can offload some of that traffic to another system. Like they have a cloud where it'll offload some of that traffic to another system, and then you're good, right? That's one of the ways that you can have fault tolerance. And then, of course, backups, that you would just, of course, have another system that's going to back up full or incremental backup on your system that does it every week or every 2 weeks or whatever, however you put it in there. But all of that stuff has to be implemented on a centralized system. Basically, you have to get other centralized systems to supplement your system so that they can survive an attack and have disaster recovery in place, right? You have to do something to make sure that it will not collapse as soon as something goes wrong. So with blockchain, it's a little bit different because there's no single point of failure. By design, it's designed to have no central trusted administrator or centralized record. There's no single point of failure. So it's already made, like if in our example up here, if I can go back to our first example here, these nodes will have all the data on them. So you can't, what are you going to attack if it's on 50 different nodes in 5 different cities? What are you going to attack, right? So in theory, if you had a system that was on blockchain, it would be way more resilient than a server client model. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is my specialty, which is compliance. So if you had an organization, your organization, for example, if your organization had all these things, it had fault tolerance built in. It was in there by design. You encrypted all data. All data that's stored on the system's encrypted by design. And privacy is not an issue either. If you had all those things, me as a compliance person or an assessor, I come in and I've got to make sure that your system is GDPR compliant, right? Because we have to implement some European standards to make sure that you're protecting users' data. Or let's say you have to be in line with FISMA, and we have to make sure that you're encrypting. You have a certain level of encryption and encrypting all important data on your network. If it's easier for me to come in and say, yep, they're encrypting their data, they have fault tolerance, they have all this stuff, it's going to make it I'm not saying that you don't have to have any compliance with local and industry standards. I'm simply saying that if you have all this stuff in place, if you have the proper cybersecurity in place, information security in place, it's much easier for you to become compliant. So that is why I think that blockchain it's look, let me put it to you this way. If you are in this industry, if you're an IT person, if you are a cybersecurity person, if you're an information security person, if you're a cloud computing person, whatever your profession is, you should really look into blockchain technology. I'm not necessarily talking about Bitcoin. I'm not necessarily talking about Ethereum or Cardano or none of that, right? I'm not talking about buying tokens or coins. I'm talking about the actual back end, the actual technology itself is something that you should seriously look into reading up on, because this right here, if this is implemented, which I think it is, like it's slowly being rolled out in supply chains, IBM, Oracle's messing with it, Microsoft is messing with it, Google's messing with it in the back end, you might want to start looking at this, because this stuff right here is going to change the way. I think that the change is going to be as impactful as the internet itself. And I know that's hyperbolic. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but I think it may even be more influential on humanity as the internet has been. Because the more I read about this technology and the decentralized nature of it, it becomes very, very clear that this can change everything. And things I didn't talk about were like the fact that with blockchain technology, since it's distributed and it's not centralized, it's not controlled by Google, Alphabet, it's not controlled by Twitter, it's not controlled by there's no hosting, like nobody can just come in and shut it down. Because of that, because of the nature of it, it's absolute freedom of speech. You can't shut it down. You can't shut it down. Now there's things you can do to kind of hide the messages or whatever, but it's still there. It's on the blockchain. All the messages are there. Other things I didn't talk about is because it's decentralized, nation states can't actually stop it. Not only can a Google or a Microsoft or a Facebook not stop it by kicking you off their platform, right? And I'm not talking about whether this is good or bad for humanity. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about facts. If there's no way to stop it because it's decentralized, that's true freedom of speech. You be able to say whatever you want, and nobody can take it down off if it's on a blockchain platform. It cannot be shut down. You can make it harder to access, like China has done. You can make it harder, but you can't stop it, right? It would be like trying to stop VPNs or something. Like China still hasn't been able to stop VPNs. And they haven't stopped cryptocurrency, to be honest with you. It's made it harder for their people to use it because they want everyone to use their cryptocurrency. But this right here could disrupt nation states. And I know it sounds crazy, but I'm looking at this technology and the more I know about it, the more I can see that this is going to really change humanity. Yeah. All right. Let me see what I got here. Get off my soapbox. I just really want to talk to you guys about this, and I'll do more stuff about blockchain technology because I really do think there's a lot of intersection between what we do, cybersecurity, information security, and blockchain technology. It's really innovative, and I don't see a lot of cybersecurity people talking about it. I don't see a lot of IT guys I see a lot of developers talking about it, but I don't see a lot of industry guys like myself talking about it. And I think that it's kind of a lost opportunity because there's so much to it. And if we get in early, start learning it now, it kind of reminds me of cloud technology. When cloud technology, I don't know if you guys remember, if you guys have been in this career field long enough, but when cloud stuff, LAMP, started coming out, and everyone's kind of talking about cloud technology and all this, and then all these companies start jumping on the bandwagon. It feels kind of, blockchain is kind of feeling like that, but way more impactful because it's dealing with money, and it's potentially going to disrupt some banks, the banking system. There's so many things outside of money that is going to disrupt, but money is definitely disrupting money. That's for sure. All right, let me see if I can just kind of over here in the background try to get access to my questions, because I see a lot of people watching me, but I don't see any questions popping up. So bear with me for a second as I log into the back end of this thing. I'm going to go to, let me see. I'm going to my comments. Let me see if I can find any comments. If you guys are talking to me, I can't, for whatever reason, I can't see the, normally I see people talking to me, but I'm not seeing it right now. So I apologize, but I'm not sure what's going on with YouTube right now. Okay, I'm gonna read just a couple questions and then I'll call it a day. Somebody asked me, is it available for people who have not paid for your course? Let me see, what are they talking about? How students send resume for a review. I'm getting too many resumes right now, so I'm just gonna start taking them from people who are in my course. I'm getting too many, so yeah, I'm gonna stop doing that. I used to just do them because I didn't get as many, but now I'm getting too many, so I'm gonna have to switch that up until I can get some more people to help me out. I'm talking to you, IT people. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, what I do is I'll take people's resume, try to help people get in this career field in cybersecurity, IT, whatever, and I'll look at their resume, and help them out, especially the vets. Let me see. Okay, this is spam. All right, here's a good one. What do you think is easier? What do you think is easier, Assessor or ISSO? And what do you enjoy more? Okay. It depends on the environment. I'm being, I don't know if that sounds like a non-answer, but it really depends on the environment. Because I've been in organizations where they made it a living hell to be an ISSO. It was very stressful. It was dog eat dog. It was people stabbing each other in the back. People getting very emotional. I was at the last place I was at, and I don't know if I should name any organizations. I don't know if I get in trouble for that. Anyway, it was at a major aerospace organization that I worked at as a contractor. And there was, it was ridiculous. You would not think that professionals would behave that way. You would not think that, you'd be surprised. These are very smart people acting like children. Anyway, they were lying on us contractors. Wouldn't turn in information. I'd never seen anything like that before. It was the most unprofessional environment I have ever worked in. And I worked with the Army. I got to tell you, I was shocked. And it was a living hell. I was an information system security officer at a organization that I will not disclose. But yeah, it was not fun. It was a place I always wanted to work, and I was so excited, told everybody about it, and ended up. And it, maybe all the departments aren't like that. I'm sure that, but the people acted like children. Now, I did work with scientists before, and it also wasn't a picnic, so I should have known better. So anyway, which one do I think is better? Overall, I'd say being an assessor has been easier, except being an assessor has more travel. ISSO has less travel. Being an assessor usually has some kind of travel because you're going from place to place to do the assessments. It just seems like, and then another thing is, as an assessor, you don't really have a vested interest. You have to come in as an objective person. Like, you have to go in there and look at it objectively. And it's your job to actually not be emotional about it, right? You're just going in there looking at data, collecting the data, documenting it, and then displaying it. And they can freak out or whatever and have their own interpretation. But at the end of the day, you are just there to show them what you see, and then that's it. Whereas as an ISSO, you're there embedded with this organization, and people see these things and they freak. Rather than fix things, you'll have these immature managers who just freak out and panic, and they don't want to take any responsibility, no ownership. They throw people under the bus. I mean, I've been in some ugly environments. Now, that said, I've been in some great ones too. I've been in an organization. Ball Aerospace was good. I worked for them. They were actually a really good company. They really tried to take care of us, and when things would go left, they would try to fix things rather than freak out. It might just been that group of people that I worked with at that time, but that was a good company. And then I've said before, SAIC, I was an ISSO there, and they really took care of us too. That was back before I think they got publicly traded eventually, but it was at the time when I was there. I don't know what they're doing these days, but it was a employee-owned company, and they behaved different. So those are the two incidents where it was actually okay to be an ISSO, but there's been a couple of nightmares. So overall, I gotta say, being an assessor has been easier to do, except for the travel kind of gets to you sometimes. But other than that, assessor, I would choose that over being an ISSO. Let me see. What should I do? You should do a paid course on STIGS. Would definitely purchase it. A course on correlating the CCID, the CCIs. I thought about this. I thought about this, doing this, and actually setting up like a VMware, and then going through all the STIGs and running like a STIG tool and all that kind of stuff. I've considered it. I've got some other things to do first. I've got a privacy course I'm working on, and then I've got a security control assessor course that I'm doing, and then maybe a CAP course or something like. But yeah, maybe an implementation one would be fun to run through. I've been thinking about that. So maybe in the future, perhaps. But I got so many other things so many other irons in the fire that it's getting crazy. Let me see if I can read anything else here. Somebody said, I noticed you said you had a TSSCI. What made you leave clearance work, and was it a hard decision for you to lose your clearance, and how easy is it for you to get your clearance back since you've already had one? That's a very good question. So, first part of this question, they said, I noticed that you said you had a TSSCI. What made you leave clearance work? So, actually, for a long time, I used it as a crutch. Like, I would always seek out jobs that had secret or TS clearances, so that they can continue to renew my clearance. But after a while, for me, speaking on for myself, excuse me, it became kind of a burden. So, because the thing is, if you're doing clearance stuff, you're kind of stuck. You're kind of pigeonholed. Like you're gonna be doing like federal work, and federal work is there's some on the East Coast, there's some in Colorado, there's some like there's specific places you can go. I'm not saying like really you can go almost anywhere in the U.S., but there's these hot spots where most of the jobs are, and mostly it's in the D.C., Virginia, that area, D.C., Virginia, that area, Maryland, that area. And then you got a bunch of places, anywhere where there's a base, which there's a lot of bases, right? But Colorado has like 6 bases or something, all in like one area. And then you got California has some bases, and then like, Texas has some. So you're going to these places that have a bunch of federal organizations. So you're kind of pigeonholed to go certain places to make a certain amount of money and stuff like that. So that was one thing that kind of made me want to branch out and do something else. And then I started getting offers. What happened for me is as soon as I started doing cyber security analyst work, and I learned I learned how to do ArcSight and learned how to do. I worked in a SOC for a while and learned how to look at logs and use all the tools that you use to track possible incidents and things like that. It opened up a few other doors for me. I didn't have to only do have a secret clearance or whatever, right? And so these other doors opened up that were willing to pay as much or more than the clearance. And then I took them. I started taking these other jobs. And then instead of a full-blown secret clearance, they'd be like, okay, we need you to have a, what is it called? Public trust clearance or something. Or we need you to, we're going to do a background investigation, but it's not a secret clearance, right? So it started opening up all these doors. So that was one of the things that you kind of get pigeonholed into that work. Was it how easy was it for you to get your clearance back? Okay, so how easy it's I think if I wanted to get back into it, it would be pretty easy. My lifestyle hasn't really changed much, so it wouldn't be a stretch for me to go right back into it. It would be hard for me to go back because I don't want to, right? I just don't want to do that. I don't want to work in a SCIF at all. I've been trying to avoid that for many, many years. I hate working in SCIF. Is like it's like a secret compartmentalized facility that has no windows, and it has like 10 layers of security when you walk through the gate. It's just, then it's shift work and stuff. I just don't care for it at all. And I like it better what I'm doing now, where I'm outside of the military, outside of the federal government. I'm really enjoying it a lot. Doing assessments for private organizations, I'm learning way more. And actually, a lot of the stuff I'm doing now is the same things I was doing there, except this, I don't have to deal with all the clearance BS. So I actually like it, not having to have a clearance or any of that. But the good thing about the clearance though is that you kind of limits your competition, because not as many people can get it, and not as many people are eligible for it, because you're not going against the whole planet Earth when you're going for a job. You're going for just people that happen to be in that area, and people that happen to be American citizens or happen to be able to be eligible for a secret or TS clearance or whatever. So it kind of limits how many people you're going against, so it makes it easier to actually find a job. So, or at least that was my case. That's what I found to be true. All right, guys, that's it. I don't know why I'm not getting any of you guys' messages over here. Normally, I'm using Streamlabs OBS, and I guess it didn't connect with your messages. So normally I'm like reading the chat. But let me see what I can do here for a second. Let me see if I can fix this. Bear with me for a second here. I am going to try to fix this thing live. Here I go. Let me see. Okay. We're going to go to YouTube. And then we're going to go to, oh, there I am. Okay. You go here. And then I'm going to turn off my voice. Oh, yep. I see you guys now. Okay, I'm going to turn. Bear with me for a second. Off. You should be hearing a double voice. Not anymore. Okay, good. And then I'm going to go here. Okay, now I see you. Okay, got it. Got it. All right. Somebody said, Navi says, hey, Bruce, love the blockchain talk. Thanks for the consistent streaming posts. Appreciate you guys. Jennifer says, 100% agree with you. Blockchain is our future. The Wallace Life. Oh, my man. He says, I need blockchain. Had to tune in. Yeah, blockchain is the future. Read up on it. Let me give you guys a couple resources. I don't want to leave you empty-handed. A couple places that you can start learning blockchain that I've actually started using myself. Trusted resources. Here's one of them. Blockchain Alliance. Really good resource of learning what it is. You know, what is blockchain? And it's starting from, it gets into non-technical, like an overview. This one's free, like starts off free. Then you got technical, and then you got specialty. So one of the ones I'm interested in is blockchain security. I'm going to do this right here. But you got it for healthcare, data science, and internet as a Internet of Things. And these are some of their deeper courses right here, but they've got free ones. Like, don't be intimidated by this price. Like, some of this is free. I believe this one is free. I'm going through this one right now. And like I said, I'm probably going to take, once I go through the free one, I'm going to go through this one right here. Blockchain security. And this one, I believe, does cost some money, but it's, how much is it? Whoa, $2,000. Damn. Oh, this is instructor led. That's why. They've got a cheaper one. I don't want instructor led. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, there you go. Right there. On demand. Yeah, okay, that's more like it. Yeah, I'll be taking this one real soon. And yeah, I just want to kind of dive into this field. I'm very super interested in it, and want to know more. And my industry may start getting into this. I can definitely see the stuff that I'm doing getting into this particular field. So I want to lean in and learn as much as I can, while it's still cheap. And let me see, is there any other places? This is pretty much the main one that I'm using right now. But if I come up with if I learn any other places to deep dive into this stuff, I'll let you guys know. All right, guys, that's it for this one.